Just as the brothers of Christian instruction furnished a courageous apologetic for Christian faith in the face of fierce persecution 200 years ago, so are we called today to supply the logic of love in the empty spaces of hatred and disbelief. Jean-Luc Marion has emerged as one of the leading pioneers in philosophical theology today. Through the innovative method of phenomenology, he has persuasively argued that faith has its reasons and scientific reason has its beliefs. He has become a champion for possibility and for the paradox. By recognizing God as the impossibility of impossibility, and by tracing the coherent contours of the higher rationality of love, Marion has unmasked the hidden fallacies of material reductionism and the incoherency of relativism. He has reopened a way to communion with a God beyond being and a love beyond all telling. He has lucidly demonstrated that the claim that we can draw a line between the possible and the impossible suggests that this line can be crossed. It is none other than the cross of the Word made flesh, which succeeds in treading upon the head of the impossible in the name of the God who makes all things possible. Therefore, Marion exclaims, "Christians, have no fear. Be rational. And you who do not believe in Christ, be reasonable. Do not fear his great reason." Jean-Luc Marion is Professor Emeritus of the History of Modern Philosophy and Metaphysics at the University of Paris-Sorbonne, and the Greeley Professor of Catholic Studies and Professor of the Philosophy of Religions and the Theology at the University of Chicago. He is a member of the French Academy and studies both the history of modern philosophy and contemporary phenomenology. In the former field, he has published several works on René Descartes, including Cartesian Questions, on the Ego and on God, and on Descartes' Metaphysical Prism. He is pursuing a long-term inquiry into the question of God, as in his books The Idol and Distance and God Without Being. He initiated a phenomenology of givenness, including the original notion of the saturated phenomenon, especially in his book Reduction and Givenness, which was further developed in successive studies, Being Given, The Crossing of the Visible, and In Excess. This led further to book studies entitled The Erotic Phenomenon, The Visible and the Revealed, and Negative Certitudes. In a more theological style, he has most recently published In the Self's Place, The Approach of St. Augustine. Awarded with the 1992 Grand Prize of Philosophy by the French Academy and the 2008 Karl Jaspers Prize, Professor Marion has also worked in the areas of Greek and Latin patristics, the history of medieval and modern philosophy, aesthetics, and constructive theology. Please join with me in a warm welcome, Professor Jean-Luc Marion.
I would first thank you very much for inviting me and having prepared this meeting with, I know, some classes, seminars, and around the theme we shall try to address today. But when I heard the presentation, the introduction you gave me, I have time to time the impression to be dead. I hope I'm not yet, because there are some few books to write, but it is a strange impression. Well, I would like today and tomorrow discuss the question of the gift, the gift in the economy. And we shall, if you agree, divide our work in two parts. This evening, I would like to explain how the gift does not fit into the economy, and but as a logic of its own. And tomorrow, I would like to connect the question of the gift as irreducible to the general question of the given through the very famous critique of the myth of the given. And by connecting those two parts, you may get a glimpse of what the phenomenology of givenness could mean and how it can be done. Because, as it was well explained, phenomenology is first an operation, something you do. It's not only a doctrine you develop, it is something you do. So let us consider the question of the gift. In particular, in those time of financial and economical crisis, as we say, and we say that wrongly, because a crisis, as you know, is the moment of a possible decision. And the great difficulty in the situation is that the so-called crisis is coming again and again and again, as if no decision could be taken. So we know what should not be done, that is a financial bubble or something like that, and we shift from one to another, to another, to another. So the crisis is precisely that there is no crisis. There is a repeated failure, and apparently no one either is able to understand what is going on, or if he may be able, is unable to take action. So this is the absence of crisis, which is very upsetting. The threat is the absence of crisis, and not the so-called crisis. So in this situation of absence of crisis of the economy, we may, time to time, consider the gift. And most of the time, the gift is seen as, I would say, a special mode of exercising and revitalizing the economy. I mean, we consider the gift as the economy without the constraint of profit. Consider the gift as a kind of non-profit economy. I mean, we know that there is an economy of gratuity. So it's possible if you cannot afford by yourself food and other things. So if you cannot pay, you may find out other organizations or other way of exchange run by philanthropists, believers, Christian or non-Christian, people supporting you, and you will get the same result without having to pay. And without having to pay means not only that there is gratuity, but that you can keep, so to speak, the economical exchange going without using money. So there is, in some cases, the possibility to bracket the painful moment of paying your bill and getting, nevertheless, the product you need. In that case, I would say the gift, the economy of the gift, the non-profit organization, whatever you could call it, would be a counter-economy, or an economy without the moment of the money. That is, an economy, this is a contradiction, but this is done that way, an economy of gratuity. An economy which makes the economy, so to speak, of the money for some few times, time to time. In that case, we could say that the gift remains a part of the economy. It is a shorter circuit than the economical regular circuit. It is a shorter circuit where there is an exchange without a counterpart. So a shorter exchange, would I say, where there is a blank, and this blank is paid by another. So you have the exchange where a part, the return, the money, is bracketed in some special circumstances. So if you consider the gift that way, what follows from that? Let us first consider that this definition of the gift, which I has recalled and oversimplified indeed, has an historical origin. It was invented, so to speak, formalized, likely for the first time by Marcel Mauss, M-A-U-S-S, a French sociologist, between the two wars, and in a very famous essay sur le don, essay on the gift, and he was studying the question of the gift, as he called it, in the native tribes in the region of Indonesia. So he studied, in fact, like later Lévi-Strauss for other population, he studied the organization of those primitive societies, and discovered that they had a doctrine, a practice, in fact, a theory of the gift. The theory of the gift is that when a group meets another group, instead of going to war, which would have been the normal behavior, one of the tribe take the initiative to make an offer, a gift, to the other. And the other has to accept that gift in order to agree for peace. And that's it. But after some time, the group who got the gift, as spontaneously as if it was not a deal, has to make another gift back to the first group. Provided that this second gift is a bit more important than the first. And then the first group has to give back what was given back and add something to the gift. And as long as they do that on a regular basis, they live in peace. So for Mauss, this was the gift. And to the point that he used to subtitle his essay sur le gift, sur le don, les lois de l'échange, the rules the laws of exchange. So my point is this a gift or an exchange? For most, it was exactly the same. We have now a running discussion about that. The question of the gift is very fascinating for sociologists, economists, and philosophers, and anthropologists. And there is still a group in France which has taken as an acronym MOS, comme as name, and my friend Alain Caillé, who disagreed deeply with me on that point, and who says that the gift is an exchange. It is an exchange where, an economical exchange, where nevertheless there is no money involved. So the difference between the exchange and the gift is just whether you use money or not. So if there is an exchange without money, without the abstraction of money, to some extent you have an exchange which is gratuitous, and you can call that a gift. And in that case, you see the point. In that case, the gift is only a variation of the economy, of the exchange. That is, the gift does not modify the logic of economy. So we could perfectly imagine a cheaper, a less expensive exchange, but it will remain an exchange. And there is no, properly speaking, a concept of the gift as such. To this relatively unconceptual argument, understanding of the gift, Derrida has added a much more radical, and I have to admit convincing, critique of the concept of the gift. Derrida argued that way. In fact, each time we consider a gift, we mean, if we are serious, that it is an act of dispossession and pure gratuity. In fact, it is impossible to achieve such an act. It is impossible not to be paid back. Why? If you give something for free to someone else, what may happen? First situation, the other gets your gift and acknowledges that gift as such. In that case, he may either give you back something, and it is an exchange, the analysis of the case of Mauss. In fact, there will be a return, perhaps not immediately, but there will be one, and or he can't pay back. He cannot give back to poor, to he would like, but he can't. What happens in that case? He will be in debt to you, and he will become your servant. It is the dialectic of the master and the servant in Hegel, to some extent. From that moment on, you will be the boss. And he will obey you because he feels committed to you. Third position, the other cannot or will not give anything back and will hate you, precisely because he was downgraded receiving a gift, or downgraded being made obviously incapable to pay back and things like that. So he will deny, not only he will deny your gift, and worse, he will deny that there was a gift. No generosity acknowledged. So he will hate you. Well, what happens there? First, you feel yourself a better man because you were able to give something to someone who has no recognition of it. So there will be a symbolical repayment precisely by the hatred or the ingratitude of the other. And to some extent, even if the other, and to some extent more, when the other erase himself, the gift character of the gift, you yourself, you know that it was a gift. And you know that you are not only the generous giver, but you are a better man than that other. And so you have perhaps the highest price given back to you, which is self-esteem and justified self-esteem, which after all is the best thing we can hope for ourselves. So Derrida said, each time I make a gift, the effectivity of my gift will transform it immediately in something different from a gift, in an exchange. And so the condition of possibility of the gift, that is to give for free, will immediately transform themselves into the condition of impossibility of the gift. Give a gift, a perfect gift, and you will be repaid in a way or another. Cannot avoid that. So the gift is the limit which cannot be really crossed. The limit because we are within the economy, within the exchange. So the exchange is not always an homogeneous exchange, money for money, good for good, product for product. It may be the exchange of a real product with a symbolic reality. But nevertheless, there is an exchange. And after all, it works that way. So in those two analyses, the result, we come down to the same result. That is to say, in fact, the gift is a rhetorical interpretation of the convincing and compulsory logic of the exchange. And there is no exception to the logic of the exchange. And it's why the word is what the word is. So the gift is not only, the gift is an illusion. And again, we have to face, on the basis of the assumption of the final primacy of the logic of economy, we have to face, on the side of liberal economists, the same reproach than was we had to get from, say, the Marxist analysis. That is to say, the claim, for instance, for the Christians, to act in the city and in among the real people for the real issues, according to the logic of charity, is purely an illusion, if not just a lie. There is no other logic than that of the exchange. For the worst or for the best, there is no exception to that. So to promote charity, gratuity, and so on, it's at best a rhetorical illusion, and perhaps it is worse than that, it is a way to deceive people. So please, to the Christians, keep your faith in private and don't ask for any role in the public square. In fact, you have nothing if you have nothing to propose, and you deceive the other if you don't deceive yourself first. So, back to the gift. I strongly disagree with that analysis. And I would try to explain how we can argue against that. If the gift is only a simplified exchange, in that case, you need, as the exchange does, three terms: the giver, the givee, and the gift, the thing given, the product which shifts from one to the other and back and forth. So let us see whether, so if we suppress one of the three, there is no exchange, strictly speaking. We agree on that. Question: would the gift amount to the exchange with another name? In that case, the gift would need absolutely the three same terms than the exchange does. Is this the case? Let us check. And to check, we have to make a reduction. We shall suppress each successively one of the three terms of the exchange. And we shall see whether, as the exchange is annihilated, suspended, because it needs clearly the three terms, what would become the gift? Would the gift be suppressed or not? So let us suppress first the giver. If there is no giver, so if there is no one to, no consumer, there is no exchange. The consumer being the giver, or you can say the producer is the giver, but is the giver in the exchange. Well, let us suppress the giver, either no market or no product, no producer, so there is no exchange. Is the gift impossible without a giver? Indeed not. We have all experienced the gift without a giver. So there is first the plot in novels, in Dickens or this thing, when you have an invisible, unknown giver taking care of the poor boy and things like that, and giving the thing he needs at the moment when it needs it, being unknown. And like Captain Nemo in Jules Verne, the invisible protector. So it's mostly in the novels that this happens, but can be real. So there is the invisible protector, which is the giver, and wants to remain invisible and unknown. You have people giving money to charities, to hospitals, under the condition to remain unknown. So that's the first. But you would object, this is a bit special and rare. We cannot take this as a rule. Let us take the other example, which is the inheritage. And this is a much more widely shared experience. To inherit, I think that the majority of us have or will inherit. And the definition of the gift, because it is a gift that comes from inheritance, is that not only the giver is absent, but it has to be, as long as the giver is not absent and for good, that he is dead, the gift cannot be performed from a legal point of view. So the experience of the inheritage is central, and we shall come back to that later. So I don't multiply the example. You could well argue that a gift without a giver is not only perfectly possible, but in fact that all of us, we have experienced it to some extent. Is it possible to have a gift without a givee? Indeed, this is a very banal experience to give through a special organization which will display your gift to those who are really in need. You don't know to whom you should give. So you go through the mediation of an organization, private or governmental or whatever, church, we will do the job in your place. And to some extent, you prefer not to know and not to be too involved in sharing concretely the thing and supporting the people, the needy people. It's more efficient, as you say. It's more quick. It's more you have no need to put your feet in the mud. That's better. So you give under the condition of anonymity. And there is a more noble way to conceive this anonymity. This is precisely the case. The advice and the criterion given by Jesus Christ to make a gift, to make a real gift. How? So there is this consideration about people giving money to the temple or making alms. The Pharisees would do that in a very visible way. And Christ says, those have already got their counter gift. This is the argument of Derrida. So Christ explains that very well. So if you give a gift in a very generous and public way, even if you get nothing in return, you got the symbolic recognition, which is much more. So this is not a gift. But Christ makes a step beyond Derrida and gives the right way to be sure that your gift remains a gift. Give to your enemy. Your enemy not only will not repay you, he will deny that this is a gift, he will take it by saying, this is my right to possess that, and you are a dirty bastard and things like that. So you will get it all wrong. In that case, if you give to the enemy gives you, that's the truth, at least a real gift. Because you can be certain that the enemy will never pay you back in a way or another. And this goes, you could object, yes, but you will know that you are the good guy and your enemy is the bad guy. And that's why Christ adds something new, another advice, that not to be self-conscious, not to be aware that you have done a gift, which is exactly the point for Derrida. Because Derrida at least assumes that any time I make a gift, I'm aware I make a gift. The condition of possibility of his symbolic recognition and self-esteem. But Christ says that your right hand would not be aware of what your left hand has done, or the reverse, I don't know. So suppress the condition of the gift. Don't be aware of having done the gift. In that case, this is a real gift. But you would say it is not possible not to be aware that you give a gift. Absolutely no. For those who are performing artists, for those who are teachers, at least they know that they don't know what they give, how much, how long. The consciousness to have been, I was very good this evening, is absolutely not a warranty. And to have been very bad, you may have given your best class ever with the impression that it was a disaster. I think that many of us have experienced that. And this is true for the athlete. The athlete, the day he can give everything, it is not intended. Suddenly there is a miracle. After year training and training, every day he did it. He has not decided to do so. And he has no knowledge and awareness of what he did to the fans and how many and things like that. And the lover, same thing. So when we give, I would say we may lose the awareness of giving. And this is not rhetorical. So you can suppress the giving. And now, we will say, yes, but you cannot suppress what you give. You give a gift. The diamond is the best friend of the girl. So the diamond, it is given or not. No. This is not true. Even the diamond, most of the time, is not given as such. It is given as the sign, the symbol, the symptom of something else. Would you marry me? The postmodern equivalent. That is to say, most of the time, what we give, is only the first name of the real gift, and the last name of the real gift is much more important. It is, I give you this ring as a wedding ring, I give you my time, I give you my love, I give you my life, I give you so on, I give you something which is immaterial. And as long as what is given is really the thing, you are not in the logic of the gift, you are in the logic of the exchange. Gratuitous exchange, but not the gift. A gift implies that if you give a thing, this thing is only a symbolic attire of the real gift, which is unreal. And I'm not joking, because the more you give, the more of real things you give, the less you can give them. I mean, when you give the supreme power to a president in the day of his investiture, what do you do what do you give to him? I solemnly swear to defend, protect, respect the Constitution of the United States. What will the guy be given at that moment? Nothing. It will be given to receive the name of the president. It will even be given some secret codes in the Oval Office. But you cannot give the supreme power of being Commander-in-Chief of the United States. This cannot be given as something. That makes no sense. If you are given the position of the CEO of whatever you want, a big corporation, when you get that, people give you what? The key of your office? The signature for the check account, something like that. I cannot be given the position of the owner of Boeing Corporation, for instance. What does that mean? So the more you possess something, the less you can possess it as an object, as a thing. It's only when it is very tiny and not important you can possess it. And most of the time, when you possess something, même something which is expensive, you get that because of the symbolic value. You don't drive a Porsche because you love driving, unless you are a professional driver. But most of the time, when you drive a Porsche, it is because people look at your Porsche. It is not because you love that. So the symbolic value is always the core of the gift. So you can perfectly say that when you give, you can give nothing. So reduction 3 times made, you can suppress at least one and perhaps two. This is another. At least one of the 3 terms of the exchange, each time you keep the gift alive. Result, the gift is not a simplified exchange. There is the logic of the gift. And let us give 3 characteristics of the gift. Positive characteristic, not only by reduction, positive characteristic of the privilege of the gift. The first privilege of the gift is that the gift is not reciprocal, precisely. It is not economical. The gift is not reciprocal. The reason why the gift, although in the description by Mauss or by Derrida, it looks as if the gift was doomed to reciprocity. In fact, the gift is always free from reciprocity. Why? Because it just cannot. It is not that it tries to refrain from reciprocity, from being paid back, because in the gift we should be inclined to behave in a more distinguished way. It is not a question of goodwill. It is the fact that in the gift you cannot be repaid. And there is a perfect example, which is the example of the erotic phenomenon. Many people imagine that in the erotic phenomenon, it is the case for reciprocity. But when you are obsessed by reciprocity, in that case, you cannot start the erotic phenomenon. In fact, you will destroy it as soon as you can. Othello destroys that. Why? Because Othello makes a suspicion, and that's enough, that he is not loved back, betrayed. At that moment, the only thing he has to do is very consistent, is to break the uneven contract. That is, considering that love is a contract, he has to destroy it immediately. And possibly to be the first. Because if in a deal you are betrayed by a crook, the first thing to do is to be the first to stop the contract. So the first to shut the other is right. You have to be the smoking gun. In the case of the erotic phenomenon, it is exactly the reverse. In the erotic phenomenon, you have to love with no consideration about being loved back. If you wait to be loved back, and to be certain to be loved back, to start to love, you will never succeed to do that. Promise. You have to act as if you were the first. And to take the chance to love the first without knowing to be loved back, and possibly without being loved back. And if you are very insistent and not crazy, the simple fact to take that chance will perhaps create some effect. But if you don't do that, you are dead. But you will argue, yes, but in that case, you expect to be loved back. So it is again an exchange, not a gift. No. Because precisely you will never be sure to be loved back. So you cannot expect to be certain to be loved back. It makes absolutely no sense. First, because you are not certain that you will continue to love. How could you expect that the other could give you any guarantee he will always love you? Because you cannot do the same thing in the reverse. But in general, what you expect is that by a miracle, the other will take the same chance you did. This you can, but you will never be able to verify whether you are at the same level of love, whether you are convinced that you will keep loving whatever it may the price will be, and so on. You will never see the exchange. You will never be in a situation when you could write that much. There is no third point of view. So you will never know whether you are less or more loved, and whether you are loved. You have to trust. There is no other access. So would the reciprocity come by, say, a miracle in the organization of the experience? Suddenly, it would be possible to have a lawyer who check everything and tell one to the other, good news, you love one each other exactly at the same level, and it will last until the end. I'm not certain that this would be a good news. It will start to be boring. No, it will not be a good news. So, what we expect in the erotic phenomenon is not a reciprocity. It is that the two unequal and uncertain chances taken by each will cross themselves and repeat themselves each time. There is no reciprocity. But the other reason why there is no reciprocity is that it is the case of the child, or in my language, the possibility of the child, which is roughly the same. In the erotic phenomenon, you have to love, spontaneously or not, your children. But it is a part of this experience that they will never love you back. I mean, what you gave to them, they will not be allowed to give it back to you. That is, you gave to them life, or you were the instrumental to that, but they will not give you life back. They may take care of you unto the end, faithfully and kindly, but they will never give you what you gave to them. What will they do at best? They will give the same thing, but not to you, to their own children. So it is a system where the gift reaches out is normal giving. And this connection between the first point is that the gift is not reciprocal. But now, second point, the gift has that property that its way of enduring in time is not that of the economy. Let us. In the economy, in the exchange of Marcel Mauss, in order to keep things equal, to avoid injustice, you have to repeat. That is, the exchange is a repetition. You get some product, but you repeat this back by giving money. In the exchange, the first tribe gives, the second gives back. So the idea of the economy is to keep things roughly as they are, with a slight difference, which is the increase to make money, things like that. But in general, justice is about equality. That is, that the exchange keep things in the same state. What is the time, the kind of time implied by the economy? It is a steady time. The market is confident. We trust. We can imagine that the future will be exactly as the present, a bit better, not too much, no bubbles, keep the inflation under control, things like that. Roughly the same thing. It is what markets love. A steady situation. So, as in metaphysics in general, but as in economy, time is oriented to the return. Return, and in German, Nietzsche used to say, eternal return of the equal, not the same as we translate this, eternal, ewige Wiederkehr des Gleichen. Des Gleichen, that is the equal, the equality. In this eternal return of the equal, of the equality, which is the logic of the economy, there is no history. People imagine that economy is related to progress. Yes, but progress is not history. It is the repetition of the increase, but it is not history. When is there history? When there is an inequality to some extent. When time cannot reproduce, which is exactly what we experience in the theoretical phenomenon. This is hugely important, because the fact that when you love, you give life. I oversimplify. When you give life, you will not be given back. You will die. But life will be given again and again and again. And this is a non-repeating time. A non-repeating time, what is that? This is the event. That is history. History, the event, what we used to say, call time to time tradition, is the real history. And tradition history, time of non-repetition, of no return to the first base, no return to the home plate. Baseball, it's about economy, I'm sorry to say. Because it is about returning. There is all very good literature about the baseball as the Odyssey, returning home through all the dangers of the different bases. But history is not baseball. History is that you, like Abraham, you leave what you have given for good. You go elsewhere. And Abraham got only one thing, the promise to have descendants and sons. And this is the gift. The gift not only is not reciprocal, but it is historical. And it's, I think this is largely what is at stake today, because I started by saying that the crisis is that there is no crisis, that there is no history. Precisely, this is because we are not in the logic of the gift. And the third thing, indeed, about the gift is that the gift has no cause. There is no reason to give. The gift has no reason. As soon as we see a reason to give, a sufficient reason, it is an exchange. You give because you have a good reason, that is, you through the gift, you aim another result. This is an exchange. So, would the gift achieve itself? This implies that he has no reason, no sufficient reason. He has only, as when you love the first without any certitude to be loved back, he has only an insufficient reason. You know the verse of Angelus Silesius, the rose, the flower, the rose has no why. The gift has no why. The erotic phenomenon has no why. You don't love because you have reason to love. You love because you take a chance. And no reason means that the gift happens, because it is an event, when you are called to give. I guess many of you have shared the same experience than I had some few times, which is that suddenly, in a glimpse, either you see something, you say, this, I should make a gift of that thing to that friend. Suddenly you don't know why. Or when you involve yourself in a decision, your relation, thing like that, it is as if the thing itself, the opportunity, the other, the situation, the real thing you would make a gift, would put a call on you. In fact, the gift, the giver answers to the gift more than he decided by calculation to make one. The gift is not reciprocal, it is an event, it is historical, and it has no cause. So I would say there is a logic of the gift. It is a logic which contradicts deeply the principles of the exchange. The principle of the exchange is that the exchange should be fair and useful. The gift is not fair, it is not useful. It is creative, and it is generous. It is not fair, it is generous. It is not useful, it is creative, opening the future. And it's why between justice, the logic of justice, which is the metaphysical logic, that is to keep things fair, to avoid violence, to have good reason to do what we do, that is, to be fair, the principle of identity. The exchange should not contradict itself, should not be unfair to each of the partner of the exchange. So you should respect the principle of fairness, which is the principle of non-contradiction of identity. And you have two terms, two actors and a third term. Why to make an exchange? You should have good reason to do so. That is utility. So utility is, at the end, the sufficient reason of any exchange. So you have justice and utility, principle of identity, non-contradiction, and principle of sufficient reason. This is the metaphysical, those are the metaphysical roots, so to speak, of justice. The theory of justice is always metaphysical because it's based on that. Rules makes no difference by, okay, rules is a great thing, but I mean, a doctrine of justice is always a metaphysical doctrine to that extent. Between justice and the gift, we shift from one logic to another. Because in the gift, you contradict the principle of identity, and you contradict the principle of sufficient reason. You give for no reason, and you give more, not only more than you will get, but you will get nothing. And strangely enough, it is the fact to give up the hope to get something because you have given up something, which will make you achieve a real gift which will make a difference. So in fact, you will, by the gift, you give always much more than you had. Just because you let an event happen. You unleash an event. And so you give much more than you could imagine. It's why many of the time we don't know what we give. Precisely because our awareness is not the right measure of the gift. So there is two logics. And I after having hesitated, the question that justice and the gift should coexist, I'm not very much convinced. Indeed, I strongly support the enforcement of justice. Let us be clear on that. But I would not say that the logic of the gift is a modification, a variation of the logic of justice. And I prefer to be on the side of Levinas, who keep a sharp distinction between the two, than on the side of Ricoeur, for whom, after all, the logic of justice could no. And it's why Christian thought, Christian behavior, has a political impact. Because justice, everyone agrees in principle on that. But the Christians have something more to say. And perhaps they do it even if they don't really say it, and if they don't always say it enough or as clearly as possible, as required, is because the concept is not completely clear yet. Thank you very much for your attention.